Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Stayntouch Product Enhancements, version 5.59, single login email for users accessing multiple hotels of different chains, change to PMS login screen, and more, presented by Stayntouch implementation consultant, Natasha Leck. I'm your host, Erin Fisher, the content writer here at Stayntouch. Today's presentation will cover how you can get the most out of the Stayntouch PMS version 5.59 product release. In this webinar, we will indicate the change to the PMS login screen, explain that a single login email can be assigned for super users accessing multiple hotels of different chains, demonstrate that add-on count is recorded in the activity log, show that checkout time can be edited after a late checkout add-on is purchased, explain the intended functionality when creating new rate codes using the based on or copy from functionalities, illustrate that other has been added as a gender option on the guest card, show that inactive origin codes are not available in CRS configuration, explain that allotment data is now sent to Duetto, show how to automatically trigger invoices to guests at checkout, highlight enhancements to Stayntouch Guest Kiosk, including how to manually enter ID information if ID scanning fails to capture data, and how to bypass secondary authentication. And finally, we'll demonstrate that the allowance forecast report has been added to scheduled reports. We will have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we'll answer them in the order they're received at the end. And that's all I have right now. Natasha, I'm going to hand the presentation over to you.
Perfect. Thank you for the introduction, Erin. Let me dive straight into it. So one of the first items on the release notes was that with the new release, the login screen has changed. As you can see here, first you will be prompted to enter your email address. And once you click on next, your email address will already be pre-populated. And if you have your password saved, this will automatically be here as well. And from here, you'll be able to sign in. A next item that was on here as well is that it is now possible for a hotel to be subscribed to multiple service providers. And for this, I would recommend to contact customer support. All right, so another item that was on there, let me just grab one of my reservations, is that when you're adding an add-on to a reservation, the count will be recorded in the activity log, as well as the changes that are made to it. So when you're in a reservation and you add an add-on to this, I'm going to add, for example, my chocolate dipped strawberries. And I go back to the stay card, and I now go to the activity log. You will see here that now it shows that this add-on has been added, and you can see here the quantity that has been added, or the total quantity is 2. If I now go and add an additional item, so I'm going to add another chocolate dipped strawberry, and I go to my activity log, you can see here now that the total quantity is 2. Any changes that are made, so for example, if I now remove this, you will also again be able to see this in the activity log. There we go. A next item that is on here, also relating to add-ons, is when you add the late checkout add-on to a reservation, it is still possible to edit the departure time on the stay card. So if I go to my add-ons and I add the late checkout, for example, late checkout of 2 p.m., I add this to the reservation. You will see here that this is now changed to a late checkout reservation. And when I open this, I am still able to make changes to the departure time. Alrighty, so let me go into the settings for the next item. If I go to my menu, settings, and settings again, we're going to go over the based on and copy from functionality in our rates. So I'm going to go to rates and go to rates again. The based on / copy from functionality has been enhanced. If you try to use based on, only the room types from the original rate will show and the amounts will be blocked. So if I take, for example, I've already created a based on rate in here. I've, for example, have this based on rate that has been based on the bed and breakfast package. If I use the bed and breakfast package as example, if I go to my bed and breakfast package and I go to the room types, you can see here that it has certain room types that have not been assigned and certain ones that have been. If I now try to base a rate on this bed and breakfast package, you will see that when I go to the rate and I go into the room types, it only shows those room types that have been assigned to the bed and breakfast rate, and it doesn't show the other ones. So I can only really use the ones that are associated with the rate that it's based on. You can see as well for the amounts that the amounts are blocked, and I'm not able to go in and change these. This is different from the copy from functionality. When you use copy from, as you can see here, this will show you all the room types, and this is not dependent on what rate it is based on. And if I go into my rates, over here, I'm able to make changes to the rates as they are not grayed out. All right, going back to the guest card. So I go back to my dashboard, and one of the new items that we've added in this release is that if I go to my guest card, opening it from here, you can see here that in my gender, we now have the option for other as well. The next item is relating to our origin for CRS integration. So I'm going to go back into my settings via the menu. So now when you are adding a default booking origin to your CRS integration, so in your settings under integration, inactive origins will not show anymore. So I'm going to show you, I have one under reservation, one origin of booking that is deactivated. So over here, you see my inactive origin. If I now go to my CRS integration, central reservation system, I use, for example, SiteMinder. You can see here that under default booking origin, I don't have the option for inactive origin, the one that I've inactivated or deactivated. This is the same as well for mappings. So let me use, for example, DEdge. If you're going to add any mappings to your CRS for your booking origin, you'll be able to see over here that I don't have the booking origin, inactive origin available. Another item for integrations, Stayntouch now sends allotment data to Duetto. So when I go into my revenue management systems over here in Duetto, if you normally have this activated, your normal options would have been group, inventory, reservation, and rate. One of the new items that we've added over here is allotment. What this means is that we now sync allotment creation, modification, and cancellation with Duetto. Another item that was on the release, it was already possible to automatically trigger invoices to guests at checkout. This is normally done via stationery over here under invoices, and then the guest invoice. We have the email bill on checkout option that it will be toggled on. And we also have the option to email AR invoices under guest mobility, checkout, and then all the way at the bottom, over here, are auto email invoices. This is now available to vendors as well through our APIs. Then we're going to move into a bit of the kiosk and ID scanning section. So I'm going to use a different example property for this. So if ID scanning is enabled for your property and you are using the kiosk, it is now possible to enter ID info manually when your ID capture is unsuccessful. So if I open up my kiosk, I can do this by changing my browser over here. And I try to check in my reservation. I will continue to the part that is relating to the ID scanning. You'll see here, I'm going to try to upload my ID. Normally, obviously, you would do this from your iPad, but as I am on a computer, I have the option to upload my ID. And I'm going to use a sample ID option because I would like that to fail so that I can show you what happens now. I need to confirm, as you normally would. Obviously, this has failed to analyze. So now we have the option to also enter your ID information manually. From here, I'd be able to click. We have all of these different language tags that you would be able to fill in as you would like. Then the guest would fill in their ID number and then continue with the reservation process. As you can see here, you're all good. Select done to continue. You just have to fill in some extra additional details depending on your property, depending on your kiosk. And then the guest would be able to continue the check-in process. Now, the reason why I've continued with this is because I would like to show you that now my reservation has moved into a stayover. This entire process has been captured in the activity log as well. So in the activity log here, you can see that it tried to analyze my ID, but this failed, blank ID number for the guest. So here it's been manually entered by the guest with ID details. They are tokenized over here, and then we are able to continue with the check-in process. Another item that has changed, which is also, or enhanced, that is also relating to the kiosk, can be found in the settings. So I'm going to go back into my settings, and I'm going to scroll to the bottom to kiosk over here, and then to check-in. So in the kiosk primary authentication options, there's a new toggle under confirmation, which is bypass secondary authentication. If someone enters their confirmation number, they won't have to fill in their second authentication. But if they choose last name, for example, they will get that second authentication option. So let me show you this. If I am on my kiosk, let me first create a reservation. See if I can maybe use this reservation number. If I go to check-in, I get my primary authentication options. I get last name and I get confirmation number. The one that we already did is in the previous option is I enter my last name, and then I get my second authentication options, my departure date or the number of nights. If in my primary authentication, I choose confirmation number instead, and I fill this in here, and I click next, it straight away takes me to my reservation. So that's what this toggle does now under Let me just go back. That is what this toggle bypass secondary authentication now does under confirmation and check-in. The last item that I wanted to cover is that it is now possible to schedule the allowance forecast report for given time periods. Let me show you what those are. So when we go into our menu, report, and we're going to schedule a report or export. And I go to plus new report schedule here on the right-hand side. I search for my allowance forecast report. As you can see, forecast of allowances for current and future reservations. My time periods that I can schedule this for is tomorrow, next 7, 10, or 30 days. I can sort this by allowance or by date. And I can also group this by allowance code or by date. And I can schedule this to be sent in either CSV or PDF format. All of the other scheduling details are the same as you normally would use for any of your schedules. You have to fill in the repeat type and how many times this will be repeating, as well as what time this would start. And then from here, you'd be able to choose your preferred delivery method, whether that would be email or maybe you have a SFTP file or Google Drive or Dropbox attached. And those were all the items that I wanted to cover for the release of today.
Great, thank you so much, Natasha. I'd now like to turn over the floor for questions. Remember, you can submit questions through the question box in the middle of the control panel. So I don't see any questions yet, but I'll give everyone a few seconds to enter those. All right, I am not seeing any questions, so I'll switch back to my screen. All right, so today we indicated the change to the Stayntouch PMS login screen, explained that a single login email can be assigned for super users accessing multiple hotels of different chains, demonstrated that add-on count is recorded in the activity log, showed that checkout time can be edited after a late checkout add-on is purchased, explained the intended functionality when creating new rate codes using the based on or copy from functionalities, illustrated that other has been added as a gender option on the guest card, showed that inactive origin codes are not available in CRS configuration, explained that allotment data is now sent to Duetto, showed how to automatically trigger invoices to guests at checkout, highlighted enhancements to Stayntouch guest kiosk, including how to manually enter ID information if ID scanning fails to capture data, and how to bypass secondary authentication. Lastly, we demonstrated that the allowance forecast report has been added to scheduled reports. With that, I'd like to conclude our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me at erin.fisher@stayntouch.com. Thanks again.